Climate Inertia, The Psychology of Acting Too Late by Professor Nigel MacLennan. We have known of the damage being done to our planet by human activities for over 145 years. In 1896, the idea was presented by Svante Arrhenius that fossil fuels could raise the global temperature. It will come as no surprise that other scientists pooh-poohed the idea on the same grounds that we hear today. Humanity could not cause such massive change to such huge global systems. 40 years later, in the 1930s, the evidence started emerging, but it too was dismissed as part of the natural cycle. One person, Guy Callendar, had gathered enough evidence of global warming to encourage others to pay attention decades later. Strangely, Callendar is reported to have expressed the view that global warming was beneficial to ward off the next ice age. Charles Keeling in the 1960s produced enough evidence to start much wider investigations into the increases in greenhouse gases. Concerns about global warming first came to public attention in the 1970s. Why then, 50 years later, are we still not taking all the action that we need? Is it that we didn't really know the consequences of raping the planet? We knew. From the days of the earliest agrarian civilizations, we have known about the need for crop rotation and leaving fallow. We knew there was only so much can be taken from the planet before we cause harm. Was it that we thought we could deal with it later, that we could kick the can down the road? Did we think that these things can be left to someone, anyone, certainly not us, to deal with? We have a legal duty to maximize profit, and we will be found wanting by shareholders if we don't take. And if we don't, we will be replaced by someone else who will. So it might as well be us taking the rewards. Or did we think, it won't happen to us. We are good people and deserve the best. It is those others, those bad ones, those real polluters who ought to address this problem. Were we in denial? The world is a big place. My little factory chimney won't make any difference. My 4x4 car to take the kids to school won't matter. You may think the above points are expressed in a childish way. They reflect the psychology of acting too late. Perhaps more sophisticated arguments, more realpolitik applies. We can't stop growth, because if we do, our enemies will overtake us and spend more money on arms than us, and end up with bigger sticks than us. Here we are, back to childlike reasoning again. Is it childish to want to protect a country from its enemies? Only if doing so results in mutually assured destruction. Not by nuclear weapons, but by global warming. Historically, international conference after conference has resulted in too little, too late, too often. There is one way to unite a people, and that is to have a common enemy. Now we have one. The common enemy is the climate damage that we have all caused. Planet Earth may not be conscious, but the processes that are beyond our control are being changed by our actions, and the consequences of what we are doing become harsher and harsher the longer we delay. Previously, there was an accountability deficit. What we did had no apparent consequences. That has changed. The planet's processes are now showing us that our lack of accountability was a delusion. Over the last few decades, some governments have engaged in virtue signalling, claiming green credentials while intensifying the pollution. There are more cars on the road now than ever before. We eat more meat than ever before. We take more flights than ever before. More houses, factories and offices are kept at higher temperatures now than ever before. In cold climates, rather than putting on warm clothing, people will turn up their heating. Rather than buy local, seasonal produce, people will buy perfect-looking product imported from many thousands of miles away at huge carbon cost. Lack of scientific education. In most countries, governments are devoid of people with a scientific education and are filled by those who are very knowledgeable about the classics about who stabbed who in the back, when, where, why, and how. We may have acted too late because those in power lacked a scientific education. The electoral cycle. If a politician is to be elected in 4 or 5 years' time, will they want to try to solve problems that are longer term, such as climate change? No. They will wait until the public are clamouring to have something done and act not one moment before. Have politicians known about global warming and the evidence that scientists have presented to them over and over again? Yes, since the 1930s. And they have denied, dithered, and delayed because back then, when much less drastic action would have made a huge difference, there were no votes in climate protection. Some may think that is realpolitik. It is not. It is reactive politics. Effective leadership is not jumping to the public whim, it is leading public awareness to create a better future. We may have acted too late because of the electoral cycle and systems. Future solutionists. Another reason we have not acted are the future solutionists. Their thinking is, since we are just about to develop the technology to suck the greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, we don't have to change anything. Those who are familiar with Jam Tomorrow promises will recognize that this too is an excuse not to act. We may have acted too late because we kept hoping for Jam Tomorrow. Closing the door after the horse has bolted. Humans do act, but usually when they have no choice. For example, when COVID hit in 2019, all across the world, we had the most brilliant scientists developing vaccines. A wide range of possible vaccines were produced and tested in record time. Humans can and do act when it is a matter of life and death. When will we really start to act? When a climate disaster happens that is so shocking, so traumatic, so irrefutably caused by climate change, we will collectively act, and act quickly.